Mike, this weekend I had an opportunity to read an author who was talking about abundance in miracles. And it's interesting. We think of miracles as life-changing events, like, for instance, you're near death and then all of a sudden you're alive, or you win a lottery ticket, and all different things. And he was saying that we constantly have miracles, but we don't really recognize them. Every day we have little small miracles.
I've had them, and I don't know. I think it's nice to recognize the angels and those on the other side that maybe help bring those to pass.
Yes, and it's our fortune today to bring back a guest that has a lot to offer to many individuals, Caroline Cousins. Caroline Cousins is a mentor and an inner transformation counselor. Coach, who meets with individuals at her home as well as on the internet and talks about abundance. And the abundance of miracles, if you want to call it that. So we want to welcome you, Caroline, to our program.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So I guess the first thing we'd want to do is define what is abundance. That doesn't mean everybody's a millionaire, does it?
Unfortunately not, but wouldn't that be wonderful? No, I mean, if I was to say to you, what is abundance? What's the first thing that comes into your head?
We have everything we need.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But most people would think money straight away when you think abundance.
Oh, okay.
So, it's the first thought that tends to come into people's heads: money, prosperity, that kind of thing. Usually the very first answer. But you're absolutely right. You have everything that you need, which is abundant. But also, we can talk in terms of opportunity. Being abundant as well. So the more that we clear abundance blocks, the more opportunities come in for us that we become more consciously aware of. It may be that the opportunities are already there, but because of the limitations we place upon ourselves, we're not always aware of them. So as we remove the abundance blocks, so we are able to see more opportunities, or more opportunities come our way. So there may be more invitations to things connected to our work, connected to our life. There may be more friendships coming in, an abundance of friendships. There may be more accessibility to things that you didn't have before. There's also, in talking of abundance, there's also in terms of creativity, in terms of energy, in terms of vitality, blessings, and the biggest abundance of all is nature. Of course, nature is always abundant. So when we're talking of abundance, we're not just narrowing it down as many people would do into money and prosperity. And I've worked with some very, very spiritual people who still see abundance only as money and prosperity. And of course, money there's nothing wrong with money. Money is very spiritual in itself. It's an exchange mechanism, but it's also, part of everything else. It's also love. As well as anything else. So abundance is plenty. It's plenty of something, having everything you need, having that abundance in nature. There's always something being created. There's always that flow of creativity, that flow of energy going on. So that's how I would define abundance there.
Or abundance in health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're looking at abundance, then we're looking at the majority of us out there, probably 99.9% of us out there, have abundance blocks. And we create these abundance blocks, or we inherit these abundance blocks. So these abundance blocks can be inherited through our ancestors, through our genes. So genetically, through that mother and father line, certainly we can inherit them all the way back, right to the very, very beginning, ancestrally. Which is, when you think of how many thousands of relatives you may have going down the line, that energy is still passed on through the cells. So it's why, somewhere in the subconscious mind, we're often carrying stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with us, but it's still blocking our energetic flow in terms of receiving abundance.
Is that your ancestral feelings of failure and stuff like that?
Yeah, it can be anything that's going to feed into that abundance flow. So anything that's going to limit you, because we are abundant beings. Fundamentally, we are limitless beings. We are these spiritual beings having a human experience. So we are perfect because we're made in that image of source, divine love, God, whatever you wish to call it. So we have limitless abilities, limitless opportunities, limitless creativity and energy. But for the majority of us, we're not feeling all that. We're not experiencing all that because we have these blocks.
So through DNA, you can inherit it. And then I've always thought it was, different when you have ancestral things that you can inherit. And then you also have the spiritual past life things.
Yeah, you have that as well. That's another, absolutely. I mean, past life, future life as well. So without putting a timing on it, there's a tendency just to focus on the past life, but it could be that there's future lives that are also affecting us as well, which takes your mind to expand your thinking a bit more about that, blows your mind. It could be parallel lifetimes as well that are also affecting our experiences. So if you think how many lifetimes that each of us has lived, and I think my knowledge is that before we even incarnate as a human, we've lived at least 30,000 lifetimes. That's something that I was taught. So many of us now, wakening up in this consciousness, have lived well in excess of 100, 150, maybe 200,000 lifetimes already. Not necessarily in this consciousness, often in other consciousnesses, other dimensions as well. That's open to interpretation. That's just something that I learned. So whether it's correct or not, I don't know. But if you imagine that each one of us, let's say each one of us has just lived 100,000 lifetimes, that is an awful lot of learned behavior, an awful lot of potential there to create abundance blocks. And if we've left any lifetime with anything unresolved, or for whatever reason, then potentially we may well have brought it into this lifetime as well. So we have that. We also have, so as well as the other lifetimes, again, it's not just past lifetimes, it's other dimensional lifetimes, other parallel lifetimes, future lifetimes, whatever it is, past lifetimes and other dimensions as well. Perhaps even in between lifetimes as well. Maybe there are often beliefs or emotions created in between lifetimes as well. And those sometimes come up, which sometimes they'll come up during hypnosis. They come up in some of the systems that I use as well in that in-between stage. But also, of course, we have, especially for this lifetime, we have the learned behavior. So when we're born into this lifetime, we're in delta brainwave state for the first year or two in this lifetime, which is very much the sleep state. But then we start, I think from the age of about 18 months, 2 years, we start to go into the theta brainwave state until we're about 6, 7, 8 years old, depends on the individual. And that theta brainwave state is wide open to it's like a sponge. I mean, Michael knows, the hypnotherapist there, you're just absorbing everything that's going on around you, everything that's being said, every experience that you have. And that can be through TV, it could be media, it could be films, it could be parents arguing, it could be friends, it could be experiences at school. So it could be, again, our peers. We want to, especially when we're young, we want to fit in, we want to belong, we want to be part of our friendship groups. So we can create blocks out of all of those experiences. And it means that, fundamentally, as we create those blocks, we're living from the past. We're not living in the present, because abundance is already there. It's always there. It's always been there. It's just that we're blocking it all the time. So we are fundamentally already abundant beings. So the only limitation we put in is our own is our own there.
Carolyn, just out of curiosity, I think one block could be the fact that we are not appreciative of what we do have. And oftentimes, instead of looking at what we have available to us,
Yeah.
we tell ourselves, if only we had this or if only we had that, our life would be better.
Yeah, which implies we're coming from lack. So we're not recognizing we already have it. And of course, if we can get ourselves into that way of feeling and being that we, in fact, being rather than feeling that we already have what we perceive we're lacking, then we'll automatically have it, of course, all the time. So, and that's what we're trying to do with clearing these abundance blocks. That's what we're going to do with clearing these abundance blocks. And one of the big abundance blocks that I've noticed that comes up with clients often relates to a lack of nourishment very, very early on in life. And it might be because quite often when children come into this world, babies come into this world, they can't latch onto the breast for whatever reason. So if a child is breastfed, or if a child is adopted, or if there are experiences going on around the birth time where the mother is detached in any way, that can be a huge abundance block that gets created right there and then.
That's interesting.
And it's surprising how big that block can be. Because it starts to lead to feelings of not feeling enough for the mother, not feeling enough, feeling abandoned by God, or feeling abandoned by the mother, or feeling that there's no they're not able to receive what they need at that time. And it kind of goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where at the bottom, every individual needs that safety, security, nourishment, food, shelter, warmth, but they need that, fundamentally, that love as well. So if they're not getting that love, although the baby's not able to analyze at that stage, of course it goes straight into the subconscious mind, and we're coming straight from spirit. That why am I not getting that love? That love is not there for me. It's like there's something missing. There's something missing there with that. So we then start growing up believing that's the norm. So that belief, that program, that memory can be started right there and there, very, very early on, that it's normal not to receive. It's, maybe I'm not enough. I'm not enough. So I never received the love that I needed. So that is another abundance block there. But sometimes as well, if we're looking at other lifetimes, particularly past lifetimes, we can, and we all do this, we bring in to the current lifetime, current timeline, vows of poverty, vows of suffering, religious vows, oaths, promises, also negative curses, black magic, negative thought forms.
Black magic?
Black magic, black magic, which is still rife in places like India today. It still goes on. So it's just negative thought forms being sent.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
it still goes on. And if you've practiced that, you've had it done on you, or it's gone through family lines, it's all superstitious stuff. It's all a misuse of energy.
I see.
But it still happens in this life, in these times. And if you think of all the lifetimes you've lived and all the lifetimes your ancestors have lived, you can often be bringing this stuff in, and sometimes just clearing vows of poverty, religious vows, or clearing some of that negative energy from you can make all the difference to the abundance flow as well.
I've always heard of black magic, but I never knew what the real definition was. And,
I wasn't sure if there was validity in it or not, but I guess there is.
Yeah, that makes sense, Carolyn.
Yeah. So the other thing, I know time's ticking on, so I'm just going to move on with this. So the other thing to bear in mind, that when we're looking at clearing abundance blocks, the environment that you're in also affects the cells as well. And that's when we're looking at the whole philosophy of epigenetics, which is becoming increasingly tested and increasingly accepted. that the environment of the cell affects the cell, affects your body, affects your health and everything that goes on around it. So spending time around people, places that are abundant in nature or abundant in the attributes that you want to have is also going to be very beneficial to you, because the cells talk to the cells, the energy is communicating with each other all the time. So the more time you spend in nature, nature is abundant. The more time you're surrounding yourself with abundance. So even in your home, if you're surrounding yourself with abundance, and I don't mean material things with abundance, it could be surrounding yourself with abundance of peace, laughter, joy, friendships. It's nourishing, it's bringing that nourishment in, surrounding yourself with, abundance of fruit and vegetables. It's all still having an effect, your whole environment, on the cells of the body and the abundance flow. So what happens when you shift the blocks is that the opportunities start coming in for you. Money can start coming in, unexpected gifts can start flowing in, tax rebates can come. We all like a tax rebate. Discounts. I had a client that was looking for a particular course for a long time, and we had a healing session clearing some abundance blocks with him. And the course that he wanted to do was suddenly discounted by something like 500 euros. So it was a big discount. And it literally came in straight after we'd done a clearing on his abundance blocks there. So we can get refunds. I know whenever I've cleared abundance blocks, I've been given too much change back in a shop. I found money on the street outside. There's also more creativity, more enthusiasm, more inspiration, more passion, more joy, more motivation, because the level of resistance to that abundance flow drops. Things get easier, things come into the flow more, opportunities come out of the blue. And I cleared a big block with myself early in December, and within 2 days I had an opportunity to write in a local paper as a monthly columnist. Came in, and it's something that I'd wanted to do for ages, and that came in completely out of the blue. I didn't have to go looking for it, it came to me.
One of the things that you really bring home is the fact that you have to also be cognizant of when those abundant things come in, just like that author was indicating, that we don't necessarily look for the little miracles or the little abundant situations. And you, because you're focused in on developing a good abundance, recognize that those things come in on a constant basis.
Well, we're surrounded by these signs and miracles, like the author said, all the time. So, but when we start to drop the levels of resistance, then we start to see them. As we start to see them, we're bringing them into our consciousness. So it may be that they're there the whole time, but it's just we don't notice them. We just don't notice them, and then all of a sudden it all starts happening, and it all just starts flowing in. It's just energy. It's just energy at the end of the day. So it's just removing that resistance, removing that limitation, and absolutely. And funny enough, having a block to miracles is a major abundance block. So if you don't believe in miracles, there's going to be an abundance block there, and that's one of the common blocks, because people associate miracles quite often with the religious side. And anything that gets associated with a religion, some people will just go, no, that's rubbish. Or, so that can be one of the blocks. So again, moving on quickly, I'm aware that time is against us. Removing blocks. When we want to get to the root cause of the block. So if we can get to the root cause of the block, then it can make a huge difference. But we've got to remember that there's layers and layers and layers quite often. So we can get to a big root, but there's going to be thousands, if not millions, there underneath the surface in the subconscious. But it's a bit like a table with 5 legs. You don't need to remove everything to get back into the flow of abundance. If you remove one leg from the table will still stand. If you remove 2 legs from the table still stand. If you remove 3 legs from the table, it will collapse. So you don't have to remove everything to get back into that abundant flow, but you need to remove enough to clean enough in order to get that abundance flow moving. And it's like the neural pathways that form these behavioral, emotional things. They're like 2 pairs of hands that link together, and we almost have to prise them apart like that. And when they get weak enough, they'll fall apart and form new ones with new habits, new behaviors that create the opportunities for us. It's like the mystics say, we have to unstick the karma bit by bit in order to release the flow of abundance. So quite often there's several angles that feed into an abundance block. So it's not just one route. Sometimes, like the legs on the table, you have to remove three of the legs of the table for the whole block to fall away and to be back in the abundance flow there. So once the mind has learned something, if it's learned something from removing that block, then it will tend to generalize. The mind will tend to generalize and apply that learning to other things. So then you might find all sorts of things start falling into place and happening as a result of that. And these blocks, they can present as solidified patterns, vows, oaths that we've discussed, programs, emotions, stuck energy, blocked forgiveness, self-punishment, guilt, blame, shame, all of these things that are feeding into blocking the limitations there.
So what do you do to remove a block?
Well, there's different ways of doing it. One of the ways I'm about to do with you right now is to remove, time allows 1 or 2 blocks there. But another great way of removing blocks is to do Ho'oponopono on it, the Hawaiian healing prayer process on it, which works really, really well as well. But that's really for another discussion.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah.
Because of time. So normally I would start, as I said in my video on YouTube, I would start with setting an intention to clear the blocks. But something that just occurred to me just recently is that if you set an intention to clear the blocks, then you're not recognizing you're already abundant. So you're putting another layer of limitation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've stopped setting the intention to clear the blocks now because it's a further limitation. So let me just see. So I would say if we want to do this now, let's see if we can clear a couple of blocks now for people that are
all right, that sounds great. Yeah.
So I would say to people, get yourself in a quiet environment whilst you're watching this video. So no cell phones, turn the cell phones off, make sure you have no interruptions there. And as I go through with anything that I'm about to say, just notice the first thing that will come up in your mind from the subconscious, even if it doesn't make sense. You don't have to understand what's going on. You don't have to understand what comes up. Just go with it. I mean, if it's totally crazy and really, really doesn't link to anything at all, then stop the video, replay it, and go back again. The other thing to mention is these clearings, they may work for some people and they may not work for others. And there can be different reasons because there can be different levels of resistance. Some may need more investigation. There may be different blocks. They may have different blocks. There may be a fear of overwhelm there as well. So again, stop the video. If you hit on an emotion, if an emotion comes up for you, or you've got something that's starting to bubble up, stop the video and allow it to come up. Allow yourself to fully feel it, and then this will integrate it into your being and stay with it until you feel peaceful. So what we're doing is we're removing old neural pathways and we're sending the old emotion into the divine energy, and we're going to integrate that love within us as that energy gets transmuted, that old stuck emotion gets transmuted. So I don't replace with alternative beliefs. So once we remove a belief, I don't believe in replacing it with another belief. We need to get above beliefs. We're already perfect. We're already unlimited beings. So we need to just remove the limitations there to take us back to that perfection, back to that limitless experience. So it's not necessary to put in another belief. It's not necessary to say that we're successful. We're already successful. We're already abundant. We're already limitless. We're just removing the limitations that say that we're not. So without further ado, I'm going to start right now. I just want you to close your eyes. Right now, close your eyes. And we're going to work on the most important one, I think, or one of the most important ones. Just allow yourself to relax, knowing that the subconscious mind is going to find a memory attachment, and allow the first thought that comes into your mind, or the first feeling that comes into your mind, when I say the following statement: I am and feel abandoned by God. I am and feel abandoned by God. That can be source, divinity, universe. I am and feel abandoned by God, source, divinity, universe. It may even be mother. I am and feel abandoned by my mother. Just allow the memory attachment to come up. Notice where in the body that you can feel it. Does it look a certain way? Can you feel it in you? What is the memory coming up? Is there a memory coming up? Is it a particular person? It may not make sense, but don't analyze it, because that engages the conscious part of the mind. We want this to be a subconscious process. Just accept it. It is what it is. You may need to pause the video at this moment in time, but allow yourself to feel into it and embrace it. And thank the subconscious mind for showing you, because now we are ready to release this memory, this emotional memory, to the divine to be transmuted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to witness that change. So I'm going to instruct the universe, divine source energy, to remove the beliefs, the feelings, the memories of being and feeling abandoned by God, being and feeling abandoned by your mother, being and feeling abandoned by the universe, being and feeling abandoned by loved ones. Going all the way back in time, reminding your subconscious mind that that was then, this is now. Clearing it in all your ancestral layers, all the way back to its root cause, through your ancestral lines. All the times your ancestors felt abandoned by God, abandoned by their mothers. All the other lifetimes you've lived in other dimensions, or in this consciousness. All the times you've ever felt abandoned by God, abandoned by the universe. Sending it all into the divine light now to be transmuted into love, unfreezing you from it as we take it from all of your energy bodies now, allowing it, feeling it, allowing the process to happen. Sending it into the light as I bring you fully and completely now back into this body at birth now. And I'm going to grow you up in your timeline, on this timeline right now, growing you up through all the experiences once again that you had, but this time knowing that you belong, knowing that you belong in this world, knowing that you belong in this body, you belong in this family, you belong wherever you've come in, you belong. Reminding you, you are a divine being having a human experience. Growing you up through all those experiences day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. This time feeling a real sense of belonging within you, knowing you are a divine being having a human experience, that you are a limitless, empowered, free being having a human experience. As we grow you up now to the present moment, present day, as I witness those changes in each of your cellular DNA now for your highest good. And now come back to consciousness and open your eyes. Now, some people would have felt change, other people not. Other people will need to pause the video. Some people just need a little bit more investigation. There may be something else tied into that, but that hopefully will make a difference for some people out there. It's quite a big one.
I'm quite sure it will. For those interested in viewing this video, Caroline Cousins can work with you on an individual basis or even on a group basis. You can see her on her webpage, CarolineCousins.com. She also has YouTubes out there. If you go to the YouTube channel and you type in Caroline space Cousins, you'll see some really great ones. Mike, I thoroughly enjoyed our experience. And Caroline, really, I thank you very much. We're talking with Caroline Cousins, mentor and inner transformation coach, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, boys.
Thanks for watching, everyone.